Hi, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. My name is Jesse, and I'll be your MC for today. Today, we have an exciting talk by Julien Crowe. So, Julien has been an IT and AI leader at National Bank since 2016. He's a senior director of artificial intelligence at the National Bank of Canada. Previously, he's managed big data and advanced analytics applied research projects in collaboration with academics. Having more than 15 years of experience in digital intelligence, he's also worked as a statistic and operation research expert in the healthcare sector, and he's held a senior data scientist and marketing strategy position in the financial sector. Julien holds a doctorate in business analytics from HEC Montréal. Today, Julien's talk is titled The Value of AI-Powered Conversational Agent in a Digital Strategy. As a quick reminder to the audience, please post your questions in the chat, and I'll make sure to ask them to Julien at the end. So without further ado, Julien, please take it away.
Great. Thank you so much, Jesse, for the intro, and good morning, everyone. Thank you, guys, for being here this I understand that this is getting close to lunchtime. I don't know about you. I'm personally getting hungry, so I promise you I will try to be as much straight to the point as possible for the presentation right now and keep the focus. So Jesse told you guys a few words about me. My name is Julien Crowe. I'm responsible at the bank for the Artificial Intelligence Factory Group. For you guys who want to get in touch, you have my LinkedIn contact here. And I'm also responsible for R&D initiatives around data and partnerships with university. Let me just quickly tell you a little bit about what we do at the AI Factory, so you understand the kind of activities that we're doing. So we have a focus on industrialization of machine learning software in the bank's business processes. We are a transversal team that collaborates with all lines of businesses, so all the different sectors of the bank, with assets that will cover structured data and natural language processing applications. We are looking in the roadmap at voice and vision as well, along with the things for biometrics. So this will be a focus we'll be scaling on a little bit later. And sometimes it helps understand what people do by stating clearly what they don't do. So we are not a lab. Our focus is really software product driven. Yes, we do prototypes, but we don't stop at prototypes. We are not a reporting team. This is not a data management capability team. Our focus is really software development of AI capabilities for the bank. Now, lastly, before I start telling you guys about conversational agents and the value of them through the learnings that we've gone through at the bank, very often when we think of AI capabilities, it's true for conversational agents, it's true for other types of AI capabilities as well. We think of model development, right? The work of a data scientist or an AI scientist, but there's actually a lot more steps that are necessary to get to a software products like a conversational agent. And I just wanted to state upfront that one of the hypotheses I'm taking when I'm speaking of the value generation of conversational agents is that
a software productization mindset and processes built in, deployed in the organization in order to make this work. Now, conversational agents. I'll just take a minute here to define chatbots, virtual assistant bots, conversational agents, FAQ bots. There's a lot of different ways to call them. Basically, I think sometimes words. What I'll be talking about today, you see here on the screen, is basically a software platform that allows for a client to have an interaction
that's basically fed by an algorithm, so there's no human interventions here, in order to provide the client with information and the right content to answer his question, concerns, search for information that he's doing. So we're really talking about a text-based tool here that supports the client in the process of finding information. The window that you have here, I'll have a very short demo of the one that one of the chatbots that we have in our ecosystem. Now, first question in terms of value that I wanted to address here is, why is it a competitive advantage? There is a lot of buzz on the market right now on chatbots, but there is also a lot of skepticism, right? And this skepticism is probably justified. I was shopping for a car a couple of months back during COVID, and I had to interact with quite a few chatbots from different car manufacturers and dealership. And the experience was pretty far from being optimal. I never knew if I was talking to a human or who was just copy pasting answers, if it was really a bot behind. It was very slow to get answers. The content I was getting was not aligned with the question I was asking, which of course didn't provide me a very, very good experience, right? But there is huge competitive advantage to having very, very efficient chatbots, assuming that they provide the right quality of service and content that's at the right level. So, of course, I apologize in advance for mentioning COVID, because it's probably something that you guys don't want to hear about. So I'll try to be quick on this one. But COVID has had a lot of negative impact on society, but has also increased the speed of digitization. And came with, through all the changes that it's done in our lives, has also generated a couple of opportunities for new sorts of innovations. And it's actually been an opportunity to put in front chatbots and conversational AI capabilities for clients and accelerate the rhythm at which we were deploying them. There's been a lot of changes, especially around financial services, a lot of client impacts, of course. There's been job losses, reduced income, closed businesses, financial stress, maximization of social distancing. There were support programs that were had to put in place. You have a couple here. Basically, what all this mix generated was a much bigger volume of conversations with our clients, because our clients suddenly needed a lot more advice than they usually do. So a lot more interactions. And in parallel, our mix of different channels was reduced because of social distancing. Branches, which typically take quite a big chunk of our interactions, started being used a lot less than they regularly are. So we had an increase in interactions with much fewer channels to be able to process them. And this is where the chatbots and conversational agents have positioned themselves as a great capability to be able to provide a new way to clients to get the information they need, have interactions with them in this context. Now, of course, it's not all about COVID, right? Digitization is a process that's been happening for a long time. It's been digital economy has been growing for years and years. In 2015, which is already far back, it was already a bigger part of the economy than retail trade. Today, it's probably somewhere at the top. So really, COVID and the digitization are bringing us today in a situation where there is a definite competitive advantage to having these kinds of conversational capabilities in place. And a lot of it is about content, right? I take the analogy here of streaming services. We used to have libraries of VHS and libraries of DVDs, limited. When you wanted a new DVD, you had to go to the store, buy it or rent it, bring it back home. You were limited with the local supply. Now what you have is basically huge online libraries accessible from anywhere in the world with all the content you could dream of. And it's efficient, it's available, you have it on demand whenever you need it. Chatbot provides a similar level of accessibility by having a centralized place where you don't need to train thousands of employees with a specific message. You don't need to be able to update thousands of employees on small bits of information. you can just work in one place, a centralized information base, a centralized knowledge base that you make accessible to everybody. And so it allows you to scale very, very quickly the interactions you can have with clients. And instead of having a person that needs to spend 10 minutes on a conversation with a client, you can suddenly have conversations with thousands of clients in parallel for the same subject with the same quality of information. So 100% of the content that's available to 100% of the clients immediately. In parallel to that, the world of banking is a multi-channel world, right? So we've always had branches. Eventually call centers were added on. Eventually ATMs were added on as well. And here, now with the capabilities we have, with the advances in AI that we've had in the last decade, it's now possible to enrich our digital platforms, not only with the self-serve side that we've been used to, but also with the capability to support the client when he has questions, to be able to guide him to the process of using properly the self-serve application with conversational agents. So clearly today, if you want to be able to offer a competitive service, of course, you need a digital platform. Everybody has it, but you also be able to make that experience on the digital platform as seamless and easy as possible. And for this, conversational agents have a key role to play in generating that competitive advantage. So there's a competitive advantage, but why is this relevant to retail banking, right? Because, okay, it's a couple of organizations are multi-channel. Where specifically is the value in the world of retail banking, and maybe a little bit more widely in the world of banking? And for this, I'm going to do an analogy of a previous transitions we've had before towards non-assisted channel, which was the ATM, that actually fewer and fewer people are using today because we have fewer needs for currency. But if you go back in the 60s, and some of you are maybe too young to know what the process is of dealing with a teller, but you have to go to a branch if you wanted to do something as simple as a withdrawal or a deposit, fill in a green or a pink slip, depending on the transaction you were doing, bring this slip to the teller. The teller would then take that information, process it in the system, input it manually, go to the safe, get the money, bring it back. This could take 5 or 10 minutes. When the ATM came in play, not only could you have access immediately to your money 24 hours a day, so 100% availability, you also had a much lower risk of error because there were no intermediary in the process of the transaction, right? No manual inputting of information you've written on a slip. You were doing it in self-serve by yourself, validating the information and doing it only in a couple of seconds. So there again, faster service, more efficient, and a higher level of satisfaction because there's fewer risks of error in the process. This is something that we're seeing today in the world of non-assisted channels with chatbots. People call thousands of times a day, call centers of banks, to get answers to some questions. And sometimes they're not talking to the right person who has the information for them. They need to be transferred. They need to go through the menu of the call center to be able to direct themselves toward the proper group for them. And this, again, is a process that can take 5, 10, 15 minutes, depending on the question and the topic. While on the other hand, you now have conversational capabilities that can give you instantly answers to your question. No need to pick up the phone. You can do it at midnight, 1 a.m. when the call center is closed. And you can have access to quality standardized information that no matter who asks the question, everyone will get the same well-prepared and well-documented answer and well-prepared guidance to support the banking process or the banking activity that the person wants to do, right? So there again, very relevant for retail banking in a world where retail banking typically serves millions of clients, so there's a lot of clients that need very often answers to the same questions, and some of these questions can actually be safely answered by a bot. So huge value here and huge relevance for the retail banking sector. So I've covered the question of, is it really a competitive advantage, not only a buzz? Why is it relevant to retail banking? The last question I'm going to cover, and not the least, is, okay, that's all great, but does it have a positive impact on the client, right? Do people actually enjoy using it? Is it actually relevant not only from the bank's perspective, but is it relevant from the client's perspective? And I'm going to display here a quick, and I apologize in advance. I'm based in Montreal, and this will happen to be a French demo, right? This is what I had on hand. I'll just translate it live for those of you guys who don't read French. But basically what you have here is a client who needs a couple of questions. And as you see from the start, we offer the client a couple of key buttons that are linked to questions that are the most often asked by our clients, so that we avoid the risk of having misprocessing in the natural language processing capabilities. So now, of course, this is only a few questions. Now the client wants to have information about how to pay his hydro bill. So this is something that he writes down literally in a very simple form, basic form, like how you would write it if you were doing a Google search. And the chatbot enters with the whole process to be able to do that transaction on the client side, along with a link on a tutorial, while at the same time asking the client at the end if this properly answers his needs, so that the chatbot, if the answer is no, can adjust and dig a little bit further, understand how he could potentially support the client differently. But in this case, it's a yes. It was pretty clear, easy question to answer. Now, a little bit more of a difficult question. The client is asking how to get a support along the international payment transfer. So then again, the question is more complex, but this is something that's by the NLU system of the chatbot. And then again, the chatbot goes process to support the client, to guide him through the whole activities of getting his international payment done. And there we go. In more complex activities, the chatbot also has the capability of sharing images to give more context to the client as to how he needs to proceed or how to identify on the page the right product. And the chatbot also has the capability of highlighting some elements in the page when, for instance, it's trying to tell the client that he needs to click here or he needs to do this activity. Okay, so this is sort of how the experience has been built internally to leverage the AI capability, but within a client experience that has been well thought of in order to ensure a service of good quality. Now, what we've learned in the last couple of, actually, we've had chatbots live for about a year and a half. And what we've learned in this year and a half is that the virtual assistants, the conversational agents, they excel in a couple of areas. When it comes to guiding clients on simple transactions to execute or digital interfaces to navigate, when you want to do an address change, for instance, or a bill payment, and there's been a lot of these questions in the last year and a half because a lot of people have moved from more traditional banking channels to digital ones. Chatbots are great. These are questions that chatbots can answer very, very easily with a good level of success. Answer product and service questions as well. For instance, the credit cards that are available at the bank, there are different specificities. Or when needed, if it's a bit more complicated, refer the client to the proper expert to be sure that the client is properly guided. These are all things that bots do very well, and solve frequent client issues as well. So Very often we'll have clients go on vacation for a couple of weeks, not access their systems. They come back, they forgot their passwords. So the bot can support them in the process of resetting their passwords. When they have connection problems, we actually have a dedicated bot on the login page that takes care of all of these. So right now, the bot is able to answer, provide the right answer to the client about more than 80% of the questions that are being asked by clients. So this is actually very, very good performance compared to what we see on the market in average. And I told you my bad experience with car dealerships before. So this positions very well the technology. Now, these are things that the technology does very well. There are things that technology today we estimate should not be used for. For instance, when it comes to giving financial advice, this is not something that we position internally. This is something for which we want a human expertise and a human capacity to understand a complex situation of an individual to be able to take care of. When comes the time to solve complex financial issues that then again have specificities between individual, this is not something that we want the virtual agent to take care of. We want to have a human help the client when it comes to solving these types of issues. The great thing is that by having the chatbot available to all of the clients who want to use that non-assisted digital channel, with all the thousands of requests that the chatbot can manage, now it allows us to focus our staff in the contact center or in the branch on giving financial advice, spending more time doing it, and supporting clients in the whole process of solving complex issues, which is really where we want to focus the human intelligence, right? So at a high level, really 3 items where it's clear for me that chatbots bring value. There's definitely a competitive advantage for the organization. There's definitely relevance in the high volume information retail banking sector. And clearly a positive impact on clients. This is what we've been seeing in the last year and a half. So I hope the content shared with you today was helpful in some way to you guys. Thank you so much for attending. If you have questions, I'll still be here for a couple of minutes. And otherwise, if you want to continue the conversation offline, please feel free to get in touch through LinkedIn. It'll be my pleasure to have a conversation with you guys.
Great. Thank you very much, Julien. This was a wonderful presentation. We do have a couple of questions from the audience. So Jin Wen would like to know if authentication is required to use the chatbots.
In some cases, yes. We have a couple have been deployed now. Some of them are on the wealth management side, for instance, for our discount brokerage units. Some of them are on our banking applications. You need authentications for the chatbots that are in the banking application, okay? And these will touch some topics that may be a little bit more sensitive. So authentication is very important for these. There are other chatbots that will be on public web page, for instance, the public web page of the discount brokerage unit. And these will be accessible without authentication because they provide the client or the potential client of the unit with information that is basically public. So there is no security or confidentiality issue here. So it's really this is managed.
I see. And so we also have a question from Faris. He has a 2-part question. The first one would be, how hard are you finding it to keep maintaining and enhancing the intelligence of the virtual assistant? And as a follow-up, what are the top challenges in managing the virtual assistant?
Okay, all right. I'll try to answer this as well as possible. Of course, the more content we add, the more questions we can cover from our clients, but at the same time, the more risk we start having of misinterpreting a question and providing the wrong answer, right? So it's sort of always a balance to keep between increasing the content, which makes the bots more and more useful to the clients, and being able to manage a clear understanding of the question the client is asking and identifying the right answer or the right guidance or advice to provide that client with regards to that question. So I would say on one side, it gets easier with time because we get more questions. We can improve the quality of the answer to these questions and constantly retrain the algorithm. So on one side, as we go, it gets easier, but this is counterbalanced by the fact that as we add new contents, the disambiguation process becomes a little bit more delicate because there's always risks that two sets of answers look so similar that it becomes difficult to identify which one we should guide it to. So I would say globally, we have increased the quality of our answers with time. We started between 50 and 60%, and we're at over 80% of questions well answered now while we've increased the content. So I would say that all in all, it's getting better for us. But as with all things, the service becoming more and more popular causes a different sets of challenges. So I hope this answers the question. I guess this is the best way I can answer it.
Yeah, no, this makes a lot of sense. Thanks for that answer. So Lou would like to know, what is the frequency of training for the bots? Specifically, she's wondering if you're training them in a ad hoc manner or if you have like a regular schedule for training the bots.
We'll usually train. We don't have a fixed schedule for training it. We'll usually do retraining of the bot when we add new content to it. Okay. And so basically, we were doing it very, very frequently at first because we started with only a couple of dozens of different themes that were covered. And we went very quickly within a matter of 2 months to about 300. And now the content is slowing down because there's fewer and fewer questions being asked that we don't cover. So we retrain the chatbot on a bit of a slower basis because there's less new content to be added. So it's really an ad hoc basis when new content needs to be added because we're quite satisfied right now with the level of performance and the quality of answers that's provided by the bot.
I see. And Faris is wondering, what kind of talents do you need to manage such a virtual agent? And is it easy to find such talent?
What kind of talent? Okay, that's an interesting question. We need lots of talents. Of course, we need AI scientists with a focus on language. So we have a couple of linguist trained computer scientists. These are sort of profiles, definitely very hard to hire. We need software engineers who have a good understanding of deployment of conversational capabilities. So, we've built the platform in Elixir Phoenix. So this is the stuff that's used in WhatsApp, that's used as well by Discord. Not everybody is mastering these frameworks. So we found people who, in terms of software engineering, understood the reality of call centers because the chatbot is linked to that, understood the reality of digital platforms because the chatbot is linked to these platforms as well. So the software engineers, these are the kind of profiles we'll go get. They're not easy to get as well. And of course, we need some people a bit like you, Jesse, who are machine learning engineers and who sort of fall in between the profile of scientists and pure software engineers, to be able to glue the whole process of development from A to Z. And these are not easy to find either. So especially in the context that there hasn't been much immigration in Canada in the last year and a half, the market has been pretty tight and scaling the team up has not been easy. So these are really, I would say, the expertise we need to make the back end of the system work. Then you're going to need front-end developers, of course, for the application. You're going to need content developers. These are communication experts that will make sure that the way the content is redacted is going to provide a good client experience. We need client experience strategists. We need infrastructure people to provide all the cloud-based infrastructure that we're leveraging and making sure it's properly secured in the bank's ecosystem. You need security guys as well. So these are starting to be more satellite expertise, but without which it is not possible for us to be able to deploy an end-to-end experience in software like this.
Great. Thank you for that answer.
Are necessary to make this happen. I guess that's the take on it.
Excellent. Well, that's all the questions that we had from the audience. I will be sharing the link to your LinkedIn profile. So please feel free to reach out to Julien if you have some follow-up question afterwards. With that, thank you very much, Julien, and thank you to the audience for participating. And I wish you all a great rest of your day.
Thank you so much, Jesse, for the animation, and thank you guys for listening. Have a good one.
Take care, guys.
Thank you. Take care. Bye.